We begin tonight with the Prime Minister's condemnation of the country's richest man, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, after he told Sky News that the UK has been colonised by immigrants who are draining resources from the state. Sir Keir Starmer says those comments are offensive and wrong. Is he right? Stephen?
Yes. I mean, look, the overwhelming majority of people who come to this country do so to work. Colonisation was a violent process in which people had their homes and land taken from them. The person who... only today I was in a care home. The person working in that care home is not colonising anyone. The person who brought my delivery order is not colonising anyone. People who work in the City of London or the NHS are not colonising anybody. It's, whatever you think about the right level of immigration, someone coming to work legally in the United Kingdom is not the same as someone invading another country, seizing their assets, and in some cases, in the case of colonisation, murdering them to steal what they have.
Kate?
I don't like the word colonisation in this context, but I think he's raising an issue which many of your viewers, I know a lot of my readers are worried about, which is the level of migration. We had migration hit nearly 1 million just a few years ago. This is one of the top topics people are talking about at home, one of their top concerns. So he's raising an important issue. Also bleeds into this idea of social cohesion, but I don't love the word colonisation in this context. OK, well,
we will bring you, of course, more of the reaction that is coming in just a moment. First, let's get more of a sense of what Sir Jim had to say in an exclusive interview with our economics editor, Ed Conway.
If you really want to deal with the major issues of immigration, with people opting to take benefits rather than working for a living, if you want to deal with that, then you're going to have to do some things which are unpopular. And show some courage.
And has this government done that?
No, I think they I don't know whether it's just the apparatus that hasn't allowed Keir to do it, or he's maybe too nice. He's a nice. I mean, I know Keir. He's a nice man. I like him, but it's a tough job, and I think you have to do some difficult things with the UK to get it back on track, because at the moment, I don't think the economy is in a good... You can't afford... you can't have an economy with 9 million people on benefits and huge levels of immigrants coming in. I mean, the UK is being colonised. It's costing too much money. It will cause...
It's been colonised?
It'll cause... Well, the UK is being colonised by immigrants, really, isn't it? I mean, the population of the UK was 58 million in 2020. Now it's 70 million. That's 12 million people.
You met recently with Nigel Farage, didn't you?
I did.
Do you think that they would be a good government if they were to win the next election?
I think Nigel is an intelligent man, and I think he's got good intentions, but in a way you could say exactly the same about Keir when Keir came in. I think it needs somebody who's prepared to be unpopular for a period of time to get the big issues sorted out, would be my view.
Well, in that interview, Sir Jim Ratcliffe said that the population of the UK was 58 million in 2020 and is now 70 million. According to the Office for National Statistics, the population in 2020 was 67 million. It was 58.9 million back in the year 2000. Well, tonight the Prime Minister has weighed in on what Sir Jim told Ed Conway. Sir Keir Starmer says the comments are offensive and wrong. Britain, he said, is a proud, tolerant and diverse country. Jim Ratcliffe should apologise. But Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has this evening, not surprisingly, taken a different view, saying the country has undergone unprecedented mass immigration that has changed the character of many areas in the country. Labour may try and ignore that, but Reform won't. Well, our chief political correspondent, John Craig, has joined us. First of all, we're starting to see, clear blue water between the politics of this, Stephen. Is this a great dividing line, do you think, for any future election we have?
Yes, I think it is. So Tony Blair, actually about a decade ago this year, gave a speech to the Trades Union Congress where he said that politics was no longer about left v right, but open versus closed. Were you supportive of globalisation, immigration, free markets, or were you opposed to them? Now, Keir Starmer's resisted that divide for a long time. They had this idea that you could have a middle position between those two. But I think what we're now starting to see is the Labour Party realising that you have to, one way or the other, you can either be on the side of globalisation, free market immigration, or you can be against them, but you can't try and occupy a little bit of this, a little bit of that, the position that they were trying to occupy for their first 18 months in government.
Well, we're going to hear from Lisa Nandy in just a moment from you, John. But Kate, first of all, you've expressed already how important this is to your readers, to the people of Britain. You know, is Keir Starmer now, does he have to tackle this in a more head-on way, do you think, as part of his reset with his survival mode?
Well, I think there's two things that Keir Starmer has to show that he can tackle in terms of the borders. One is getting net migration, normal immigration down. Actually, it's already coming down a lot, so I suspect that will sort itself out in a way. The other thing is tackling illegal migration, often conflated. This idea of you've got to stop the boats. Look, this speaks to a point about fairness in our country, and I think that will be where Keir Starmer really needs to prove he can make a difference, tackling illegal immigration, making sure it doesn't look like people are jumping the queue, are allowed to stay here when they don't kind of pass the test, when they don't follow the right rules to be allowed to stay here.
I mean, strong words tonight. Colonisation, it's offensive, it's divisive, John. What reaction are you getting? And was the Prime Minister right to come out, do you think, so strongly and speak to, a very well-known individual in this way?
It does sound like the language of Reform UK. And in fact, in that interview, we heard Sir Jim say he'd met Nigel Farage recently. Now, it's worth pointing out, as well as the Keir Starmer message tonight, Number 10 have said, again, Mr. Jim Ratcliffe should immediately apologise. And then a spokesperson has said, his offensive remarks are wrong and play into the hands of those who want to divide our country. Clearly, an attack on Reform UK there without even mentioning them. Now, you've corrected the figures already. I mean, that 9 million, I think he's probably thinking about the number of working-age people who are on benefits there. But, I mean, a lot of people will point out, well, hold on a minute, at the Manchester United-West Ham game the other night, there were only 3 English players on the pitch, the rest of them from all sorts of nations. Apparently, according to our sports correspondent Rob Harris, Manchester United have got players from more than 12 nationalities around the world. He's also at odds with Manchester United's own website, where they talk about Manchester being a city that celebrates immigration. The Premier League talks about how it's become a league of nations on the pitch. But the background is that, of course, he's a big Brexiteer. And he said in an interview with Sky News in 2024, it didn't turn out how people anticipated. Now, we've heard from Sir Keir. Lisa Nandy, the Culture Secretary, whose brief, of course, includes sport, was rather more nuanced than the Prime Minister when she appeared on the Politics Hub here on Sky News tonight, interviewed by Matt Barbette.
When it comes to immigration, I think that people deserve an immigration system that they can trust. I think most people are very compassionate, and where people need safety and security, they expect Britain to play our part, and we'll give a warm welcome to people who need to be here.
Lisa Nandy there. Well, meanwhile, plenty of reaction, as you might expect, from the world of football. Sir Jim, of course, co-owner of Manchester United. The football charity Kick It Out said Sir Jim Ratcliffe's comments are disgraceful and deeply divisive at a time when football does so much to bring communities together. That's their statement this evening. Plenty more that they had to say. Show Racism the Red Card said it was deeply concerned by Sir Jim's comments. It said language of this kind echoes narratives that have historically been used to stigmatise migrant communities, fuel division and legitimise hostility towards minority groups. Two of the statements there as well. Certainly the comments are already in the newspapers, but, I mean, football is an incredibly, multicultural event, is it not? And there'll be football fans listening to that who'll be going, hold on a minute, is he talking about me here?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Premier League is the example of the strength of immigration, although, personally, look, if Jim Ratcliffe wants to start chalking off goals and points won by Manchester United's immigrant players, I, for one, would quite like it if the game at the Emirates and Mbeumo's goal hadn't counted. So, yeah, look, but I think lots of people in the stands will go like, wait, are you talking about my grandparents? Are you talking about the players in front of it? But this is always the issue about the politics of immigration. People don't like the headline numbers, but as we see with the Windrush scandal, as we see with various stories down the year, people then don't like, oh, well, I didn't mean that immigrant. I didn't mean the immigrant looking after my grandmother. I didn't mean the immigrant who, works for me in the NHS. And this is, I think, the thing which is difficult for all governments is how do you thread that line between giving people that sense of control, particularly that control over illegal immigration, while also providing them the first-class services. No one, when they vote for lower immigration, is voting for the England team to become less successful. You know, they don't want Bukayo Saka to go home. They don't want the NHS to waiting lists to get even longer, and they don't want the City of London to be less competitive. And so I think that is one of the many things Jim Ratcliffe has got wrong, although I must admit I do quite enjoy his tenure of Manchester United, and as someone who doesn't like that football team, long may it continue.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't quite get 5 wins in that man cutting his hair, though, did you? Official Manchester United Muslim Supporters Club, the term colonised is not neutral. It echoes language frequently used in far-right narratives that frame migrants as invaders and demographic threats. The problem, as you said, is immigration's already coming down. Policies that were brought in under the Conservatives, in fact, until people realised about the care sector and the NHS as well, which is a big employer. Where else do you get growth from if you do not allow migration in? That's another big argument, is it? Just as the Lib Dems want to hive off part of the Treasury as a growth unit. But is it an important factor in growth, do you think, or does that not stop people's view that enough is enough for some people?
I think it's maybe a factor that they've leaned on very heavily at the OBR and amongst governments for too long. So it's this idea that if we just kind of keep bringing more immigrants over, we could get this like sluggish economy growth going a little bit. It's just about kind of expanding numbers. But what that's done is highlight the kind of problems with our economy, which is it's not very productive, and that and there is a question about how you count migration in terms of the productivity of the economy. So obviously people come over and work, that can be scored as productive, as something good for the economy, but also you're talking about what it costs in housing, in services, in population. Can I just say something a bit broader, though, on his comments, which is, I think, what his point is going to be lost in his language, which is where, you know, look, he's not a politician. He's made he's put a kind of toe in the water here, and he's not chosen the best language. But he's making 2 points in that interview that I heard. One, immigration he thinks is too high, and he thinks lots of people think that. Well, I guess lots of people do think that, actually. And second, that there's a problem in our country in terms of worklessness, people being out of work, on benefits of working age. And we know that being in a job is the best thing for your well-being, your happiness and your future prospects. And those are two things that every Prime Minister, by the way, should be grappling with and trying to sort out.
So to John then, stop the boat strategy is not working, one in, one out's not working, parts of the Labour Party won't allow any welfare reforms to get people back into work. So what do they do?
Well, the Prime Minister is, in recent weeks, being tougher and tougher with Reform UK. Today, he attacked Robert Jenrick for those remarks in Birmingham when Mr Jenrick was, I think, recorded saying you don't see any white faces in an area of Birmingham. So the Prime Minister is very keen, I think, to pick a fight, particularly with Reform UK, not so much with the Tories, I don't think, on the racism issue. And that's why Number 10 is saying it plays into the hands of those who want to divide our country. And that is a clear reference to Reform UK.
OK, it's an interesting discussion, as you say. He certainly, you know, brought into the focus, again, the issue of migration, legal or otherwise.